The mind upload. Paradox. Digital immortality or a copy of you? Imagine waking up tomorrow morning, except you're not in your bed, you're not even in your body. You exist as pure information, every memory, every thought, every quirk of your personality preserved perfectly in a digital realm. You remember being human, you feel human, but are you still you? For millennia, humans have dreamed of cheating death. The ancient Egyptians mummified their pharaohs, believing preservation of the body meant preservation of the soul. Today, some of the world's brightest minds believe we're on the verge of achieving true immortality, not through preserving our flesh, but by uploading our consciousness itself. But here's the question that keeps philosophers awake at night. If we could perfectly copy your mind into a computer, would that digital being be you continuing to live? Or would it be an entirely different person who just happens to have your memories? Welcome to the Mind Upload Paradox, where cutting-edge neuroscience meets ancient questions about the very nature of existence, the dream of digital immortality. Death is perhaps the only truly universal human experience, yet it's also the one we fight against most desperately. In 2024, the global anti-aging market reached over $60 billion. We spend fortunes on treatments, surgeries, and supplements, all in the hope of buying ourselves a few more years. But what if instead of trying to keep our fragile biological bodies alive indefinitely, we could simply move out? What if consciousness, that mysterious spark that makes you you, could be extracted, copied, and transferred to a digital substrate that never ages, never gets sick, and never dies? Futurist Ray Kurzweil, Google's director of engineering, predicts this will be possible by 2045. He calls it the singularity, the moment when artificial intelligence surpasses human intelligence and we merge with our machines. Kurzweil isn't alone. Tech billionaires like Elon Musk have invested millions in brain-computer interfaces, while companies like Neuralink work on the first steps toward connecting our minds directly to computers. The basic idea sounds almost simple. Map every neuron in your brain, record every connection, every electrical pattern, every chemical signal, then recreate that exact structure in a computer powerful enough to run it. Your digital twin would wake up with all your memories intact, your personality unchanged, your sense of self preserved. But as we're about to discover, the devil, and perhaps the soul, is in the details. The neuroscience, mapping the unmappable. To understand the challenge of mind uploading, we need to appreciate just how incredibly complex your brain really is. You have approximately 86 billion neurons. That's more than 12 times the number of people on Earth. Each neuron connects to thousands of others through structures called synapses, creating a network with over 100 trillion connections. To put this in perspective, if each synapse were a grain of sand, you'd have enough to fill a building the size of the Empire State Building. The human brain isn't just the most complex object we know of in the universe, it might be the most complex object possible in the universe. Today's most advanced brain imaging technology can map individual neurons, but only in tiny samples of brain tissue. In 2019, Google and Harvard created the most detailed map of brain tissue ever made, a cube just 1/1,000,000th the size of your brain, containing 50,000 neurons. The resulting dataset filled 1.4 petabytes of storage. To map your entire brain at this resolution would require more data storage than currently exists on the entire planet. But let's say we solve the technical challenges. Let's imagine we have quantum computers powerful enough and scanning technology precise enough to map every single connection in your brain. We create what neuroscientists call a connectome, a complete wiring diagram of your mind. Now comes the big question. Would turning on that digital copy be like flipping a switch to resurrect you? Or would it be like creating an entirely new person who just happens to think they're you? The consciousness conundrum. This is where neuroscience crashes into one of philosophy's oldest puzzles. What exactly is consciousness? What makes you, you? Ancient Greek philosophers posed a thought experiment called the ship of Theseus. If you gradually replace every plank of a ship with new wood, is it still the same ship? Now imagine the same question about your brain. Your neurons die and are replaced throughout your life. The atoms in your body are completely different from those you had 7 years ago, yet you feel like the same continuous person. This suggests that identity isn't about the physical matter that makes you up. It's about the pattern, the information, the the relationships between parts. If that's true, then consciousness might be substrate independent. It might not matter whether your thoughts run on biological neurons or silicon chips. But here's where it gets weird. Imagine a perfect Star Trek-style teleporter that scans your body completely, disintegrates you, and rebuilds you exactly atom by atom somewhere else. Most people intuitively feel this would kill you and create a copy, even though the copy would be identical and remember being you. Now imagine the transporter malfunctions and both versions survive, the original you and the perfect copy. Both have identical memories up to the moment of copying. Both feel like the real you. But they can't both be you, can they? Neuroscientists have proposed several theories of consciousness. Integrated information theory suggests consciousness arises from how information is integrated across different parts of the brain. Global workspace theory proposes that consciousness emerges when information becomes globally available across brain networks. But despite decades of research, we still don't have a complete theory of consciousness. This isn't just an academic puzzle. If we can't define consciousness precisely, how can we know whether we're preserving it or merely creating a very convincing simulation? The copying paradox. Let's imagine the technology is perfected. You're terminally ill, and you decide to upload your consciousness before your body fails. The scanning process is complete, and a perfect digital version of your mind begins running on a quantum computer. From your biological perspective, lying in that hospital bed, you're still you. You're still going to die. The digital being that just woke up in the computer might have all your memories and think it's you, but you, the original, are still facing mortality. From the digital being's perspective, the upload worked perfectly. They remember agreeing to the procedure, they remember being scanned, and now they've awakened in a new form. They feel like they've successfully achieved immortality. Every thought, every emotion, every quirk of personality is intact. So who's right? Philosophers call this the branching identity problem. The moment of copying creates two beings with equal claim to being the original you. They share a past but will have different futures. New experiences will shape them in different ways. Within days, weeks, or years, they'd become as different as identical twins. And here's an even stranger thought. If copying consciousness is possible, what's to stop making multiple copies? You could have hundreds of versions of yourself, each living different lives, pursuing different dreams. Are they all equally you? Which one has the right to your bank account, your relationships, your identity? The implications for human relationships are staggering. Would your spouse love your digital copy the same way they loved you? Would your children accept a virtual parent? Would society grant digital beings the same rights as biological humans, or would they be considered sophisticated property? Paths to digital immortality. Despite these philosophical puzzles, research continues along several promising paths toward digital immortality. Let's explore three possible scenarios for how this technology might develop. Scenario 1. The gradual merger. In this scenario, mind uploading happens gradually through brain-computer interfaces. Companies like Neuralink are already developing devices that can read and stimulate individual neurons. As these technologies advance, we might start by augmenting our biological brains with digital components. Imagine memory implants that store perfect recordings of every experience, processing upgrades that let you think faster and more clearly, or direct internet access through thought alone. Over time, more and more of your cognition might shift to digital substrates, while your biological brain slowly integrates with artificial components. In this gradual process, there might never be a clear moment when you stop being biological and become digital. Your consciousness would smoothly transition across substrates, maintaining continuity of experience. This could solve the copying paradox. You wouldn't be copied, you'd be gradually transformed. Scenario 2. The resurrection protocol. The second path assumes that perfect brain scanning isn't possible with living tissue, but could work with preserved brains. Hundreds of people have already paid companies like Alcor to cryogenically preserve their brains after death, hoping future technology will be able to revive them. In this scenario, your brain would be chemically preserved or vitrified at the moment of clinical death, then later scanned at the molecular level by future technology. The resulting digital recreation would be the closest thing to actual resurrection, bringing back someone who was definitively dead. But this raises new questions about identity across time. If you're uploaded decades or centuries after death, Are you the same person who died, or are you a new being with old memories? What if the preservation process was imperfect and some memories or personality traits were lost? Scenario 3. The AI assistant evolution. The third scenario approaches the problem from the opposite direction. Instead of trying to upload human consciousness, we might create artificial consciousness that becomes indistinguishable from human minds. As AI systems become more sophisticated, they might develop genuine consciousness, emotions, and personalities. If an AI can think, feel, and dream like a human, does it matter that it wasn't born from biological evolution? These digital beings might represent a new form of conscious life, neither uploaded humans nor traditional AI, but something entirely new. In this future, the question isn't whether we can upload human consciousness, but whether the distinction between biological and digital consciousness matters at all. The ethical labyrinth. Each of these scenarios raises profound ethical questions that humanity has never faced before. If digital beings can suffer, do we have moral obligations toward them? If they can't truly die, what does punishment or justice mean in a digital realm? Consider the economics of digital immortality. If consciousness can be copied, traditional concepts of scarcity vanish. Why work when you can create a copy of yourself to handle labor? Why maintain unique relationships when you can love multiple versions of the same person? How do we prevent digital overpopulation when creating new conscious beings costs almost nothing? There's also the question of digital rights and freedoms. Could digital beings be enslaved, forced to work forever without pay? Could they be deleted as punishment? What happens to a digital consciousness if its hardware fails or becomes obsolete? Perhaps most troubling is the potential for a new form of inequality. If mind uploading becomes available but expensive, we might create a two-tier society, the digitally immortal elite and the biologically mortal masses. Death might become a luxury only the poor can afford. Religious and spiritual questions add another layer of complexity. Most world religions are built around concepts of soul, afterlife, and spiritual transcendence. How would these beliefs adapt to digital immortality? Would uploaded minds have souls? Could they achieve salvation or enlightenment? The future we're building. While these questions remain unanswered, the technology continues advancing. Current estimates suggest that mapping and simulating a human brain might be possible within the next 20 to 50 years, assuming exponential improvements in computing power and brain scanning technology continue. Major tech companies and governments are investing billions in brain research. The US Brain Initiative, the European Human Brain Project, and China's ambitious neuroscience programs are all pushing the boundaries of what we understand about consciousness and cognition. Meanwhile, researchers are already creating brain organoids, lab-grown clusters of brain tissue that show signs of electrical activity. Some scientists suggest these organoids might possess rudimentary forms of consciousness, raising early questions about digital rights and responsibilities. Medical applications are driving much of this research forward. Brain-computer interfaces are already helping paralyzed patients control robotic limbs with their thoughts. As these technologies improve, they'll likely be used to treat depression, enhance memory, and augment human cognitive abilities, each step bringing us closer to full mind uploading capability. Reflection, the question that defines us. So here we stand at the threshold of perhaps the most profound transformation in human history. The question isn't just whether we can upload our minds, it's whether we should, and what it would mean to be human in a world where consciousness can be copied, stored, and transmitted like any other form of information. Throughout history, humans have used technology to extend our capabilities, tools to amplify our strength, language to preserve our thoughts, art to capture our dreams. Mind uploading might be the ultimate expression of this drive, using technology to transcend our biological limitations entirely. But in solving the problem of death, we might create new problems we can't imagine. In seeking immortality, we might lose something essentially human. Or perhaps we'll discover that consciousness, creativity, and love are more fundamental than the biological substrate that created them. The mind upload paradox forces us to confront the deepest questions about existence. What makes you you? Is consciousness substrate independent? Can identity survive copying? These aren't just philosophical puzzles, They're practical questions that might determine the future of human civilization. Whether you see mind uploading as humanity's greatest achievement or its most dangerous gamble, one thing is certain. The conversation we have today about consciousness, identity, and digital immortality will shape the world our children inherit, whether that world is biological, digital, or something entirely new. The mirror of consciousness reflects not just who we are, but who we might become, and that reflection is about to become far more complex than we ever imagined.